It is now my very distinct privilege to introduce to you the Right Honourable, the Prime Minister of Australia, the Honourable John Gorton, and to say how delighted and pleased we are that he has seen fit to fulfil what he gave, an indication of promise that if it was at all possible, he would come to Ballarat, lead the march, and also give the occasional address on this ANZAC Day ceremony. Little did he know at that particular time that he would be elevated to the most important position in this nation of ours. We congratulate him on his important appointment. We wish him well, and I know now that you are looking forward to hearing from the Right Honourable, the Prime Minister of Australia.
Mr. Mayor, and all those who have gathered here today, it is impossible to say on ANZAC Day anything which has not in some form or another been said before. But perhaps it is no bad thing that on one day each year the people of a nation should look not for something new, but should look back in remembrance of what has been done by Australians and why that has been done, and should look forward to what can be done by Australians as a result of what has been done in the wars which we remember. Twice in my generation, young Australians have left their homes and their families, their farms, their professions, and have marched off because they felt there was a need for them to do this, not for themselves, not only for the nation to which they belonged, but for the world, if free men were to be able to retain those things on which a society ought to be built, and if their children were to be able to use those things which had been gained and must necessarily be preserved. I said today was one in which we looked back and looked forward. And at this stage of our history, I think this is doubly true, because I speak today here to men who went to the First World War, to men who went to the Second World War, to those who since went to smaller wars, but not smaller for the individual engaged, and to a large number of Australians who have no personal remembrance at all of the First or the Second Wars. I think we must therefore talk in segments. Talk to those who 50 years and more ago left those pursuits of which I've spoken, and who went to storm the beaches of Gallipoli, or to endure and suffer and eventually to overcome in the mud of Flanders fields. And I must talk to those who 25 years and more ago followed the trail they blazed out to desert and sea and alien sky. And to those who knew them and who still remember them, we talk of remembrance today. Remembrance of those Australians who saw a challenge, who laughed and marched away, and now in ordered cemeteries or in the high mountain passes or the deserts or the deeps of ocean lie and are not with us. And their parents and friends and comrades who knew them as young men, and to us they will be always young, on today remember them personally. But the years are quick, and already it is 50 years or more since the men of the 1st AIF took up this challenge. Already it is 25 years or more, a quarter of a century or more, since we in our turn followed them. And soon, relatively soon in the life of a nation, those who remember will be fewer and fewer until there are none left for those personal memories. And if today was merely a day to remember men who gave all that could be given, if today was merely a day to remember young men who, burning in tanks or aeroplanes, drowning in submarines, shattered or broken by high explosive shells, gave the last full measure of devotion, if today was just the day to remember them, then in the future there would be none to remember. And ANZAC Day would wither and die. So we look forward as well. And we look forward, I think, in this belief. In the belief that those we now remember went not to conquer other lands, not to subjugate other people, but to maintain that which they believed was essential to be maintained if a nation were to live in freedom and in honour. And we can refresh on one day a year. And I hope, looking to the future, that Australians in the corridors of the far future will still remember that what motivated these men was a desire to retain that political freedom without which no individual can achieve his full potentiality. To retain it against armed attack by armed resistance, and that they successfully retained it by armed attack by armed resistance against armed attack. And knowing that this was what made people do this, surely now and in the future, on this day in the year, we can now, and as far ahead as I can see, reflect on the importance of that which was preserved, and dedicate ourselves to see that that which was preserved is properly used. What was got was not a new and better world, because one does not get a new and better world by the use of brute military force. What one got was an opportunity to create as free men the sort of world which inside all of us we want to see. A foundation is not a house. But without a foundation, an enduring structure cannot be built. It was the foundation on which alone an enduring structure can be built that was maintained by men who are not here. It is on those who now are here and on their children to see that on this foundation is built a shining structure, and one which those who are not here would have regarded as something for which their sacrifice was worth the giving. And because it is not easy to do these things in time of peace without the spur of war, because there is crowding in on us in times of peace always personal problems, getting and spending, laying waste our wealth, it is, I think, in a nation a good thing that one day each year we think of what was given to maintain a chance to build. We rededicate ourselves to try as much as within us lies to build, to give that kind of community service which will build, to create not only the material benefits which are needed for a proper structure, but the spiritual approach of an individual retaining his individuality, but of his own free will devoting part of that to the community. Part of that to see that on the foundation of political freedom is built economic freedom, is built tolerance, is built a community that can live together without hate in spite of differences as to the roads that ought to be followed to attain a common end. It is these things, I think, which in the future, when the time comes that those of us who experience the test of war are gone, it is these things I hope our children will look back on and marvelling at the endurance and the courage that was given to this country by men in the past, will themselves seek to protect in war, if necessary, against attacks from without or from within, if necessary, and being prepared to give that protection, being prepared also to give that effort, that endurance, that brain, which is necessary in peace to make use of what is maintained. It is in that I see the enduring significance of this day which we here have come today to memorize. If this is so, if in the shadowy future of a nation, which in the shadowy future may be great, there will come together on this day crowds such as come together today, looking back in pride, looking forward in dedication, then all that loss and all that blood and all that sacrifice built into our heritage will be not only a heritage, but a harbinger of a future which I think we all want. I thank you.